Ladies and gents, we back with the second set of reviews for the year 2022, giving the people what they want and what you asked for. This album review is for one of what many consider the all-time greats, Michael Jackson's Thriller. This is an album I had actually listened to, I guess it was over the summer, I want to say, straight through, intended to do a review but didn't get around to it, so I did a little bit of a revisit yesterday. The headline on this album is it gets a 4 out of 5. Some of you guys may be saying, look, this is literally one of the top 10, 15 albums of all time. How can you give it such a low score? But look, I gotta follow the criteria. I gotta follow what I set up, and alas, that's where it hits. So what's interesting for me is I don't want to go through this exercise and just go from one top 10 album of all time to another top 10 album of all time to the next top 15 albums of all time. So I'm going to be sprinkling in a mix of some of the all-time greats with some of the not so all-time greats as well. Got to keep it interesting for me too, and also just scoring everything 4 and 5 really I don't think would make all that much of interesting content. So let's jump into it. Where does this album shine? This album is just a ton of pop hits. The amount of classics on this album was just absolutely unreal. So I like to, as I go through my chart, call out albums and characteristics where they have like kind of a gold standard, or what I think of as a gold standard. This to me, I think basically gets kind of the gold standard of 5 for the ability to tap your toes, get into the music, sing along with it. Obviously, so many songs on here have really stood the test of time, which is another area where this album absolutely excels. So I felt myself, I was going to lunch, I was dancing, I was moving around, just totally unconsciously, which was really cool and probably not all that surprising given this album. So where this album falls down a little bit for me are two primary areas. One, the overall album flow and experience. It's just not there. It's a collection of great songs, but it's, at least in my mind, doesn't really have a consistent message. It's a lot of great pop songs that don't necessarily hook from one to the other. So I gave it a 3 on that score. And frankly, I think you could probably knock it down to a 2 if you wanted to push on it. And I will say also, and I'm sure this will be up for debate, the breadth range. Look, Michael Jackson in this album, I think, operates well within the pop genre. I don't think we see a ton of different things there, aside from one of the things I thought was interesting early in the album. I think especially with Wanna Be Starting Something, you hear a lot more, call it, I don't know, more of like a 70s sound with a lot of horns in there, which I thought was cool. We're in the early 80s when this album comes out there, so you get a little bit there, but for me it's still all kind of operating within the same pop genre without a whole lot going on there. So I gave it a 3 there as well too, and I think you could probably push a little bit on that one too. So those are the two areas where it falls down. Lyrics, message, it's fine, with the exception obviously of Thriller, which is just kind of a crazy song and interesting experience. I tried to do a little bit of half-ass research afterwards to understand, okay, what was the meaning behind it. I didn't find anything that was really concrete. So to me, like, that one I think goes back to this point about cohesion. You've got some songs like how you're talking about love, etc., and then you've got Thriller in the middle, which now has been kind of co-opted into basically a Halloween type song. Whether or not that was the intended purpose or not, I guess we can debate that. And it kind of breaks up the album a little bit, but regardless, kind of a creative song certainly on that side of things. So we'll give some credit, but then also detract a little bit from that as well. The music side of things, obviously, just some classics hits here and really cool production value, I think, across the board. So anyway, gets a 4 out of 5. Interesting, some real high peaks on this that I want to point to. Some other things that don't hit quite as well for me, but obviously was super enjoyable to listen to, and definitely looking forward to a revisit on it.